Okay, I'm gonna give it another minute or so, and I see people are still coming in, so I'm gonna give everybody another couple seconds to join, and then I will get started with the presentation. Okay, I'm going to get started. Good evening, everybody. My name is Melissa Creamer, and I am one of the co-authors of the IPA packs, the Spanish IPA packs for Teachers Discovery. And I'm also one of the co-authors of the Mundo Hispanohablante thematic units for Teachers Discovery. Last week, about a week ago, we did the intro to Google Classroom, the 101, and I still had a lot of questions coming in from people, so we thought we would do the 102 version of the Google presentation and give you some more information about it. And tonight you'll get a chance to enroll as a student and get the student point of view. I have a quick assignment for you to do and return to me so you can see how to grade assignments that are given. We'll also have a couple more activities that we will be doing throughout the evening. If you remember, there is a question and answer section where you can type your questions. Everybody is on mute so that if you do have questions, you can put them in there. There's also a chat feature where you can add your comments I will pull up the question and answer section throughout my presentation and answer your questions about each of the different activities that I'm doing. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you and get started. Okay, so this is Remote Teaching 102, and you are going to get a student view, and you will also see how to grade assignments. Some of the things that you will see on my Google Drive come from these resources. They are all available on Teachers Discovery as digital downloads. I am going to use the Lecturas Culturales de Argentina. I used those last week as well. I have a weekly writing prompt that I also used, and then I do have an activity from one of my thematic units that I will show you as well. And again, those are all digital downloads that you can get from Teachers Discovery. So just to kind of give you an idea of what's going to happen this evening, you will have an opportunity to enroll as a student in a Google Classroom. And in that Google Classroom, I will post an assignment for you to do. And then I will show you my end of it so that you can see how to grade it. I will show you how to make a comment bank. This is probably one of my favorite features that I've been using lately. It saves a lot of extra typing. And then I will show you how to return assignments to students. I will also show you some of the ways that I've been able to take a PDF of something that I have purchased either from Teachers Discovery or a PDF of something that I have and make it into a document that the students can write on. You have a couple of different options for doing this. And then at the end, I'll show you some of the sites that are compatible with Google Classroom. Those are the sites, and I can show you some of those as well. And then these are the contact information. If you would like to email me, that's my email address. And then that's also my Twitter. I'm not the most exciting on Twitter, but it's there. All right. So what I'm going to do is I am going to start with a Google Classroom. Okay, so if you are full screen right now, what you're going to have to do is exit out of the full screen Zoom so that you can open up your browser and go to Google and go to Google Classroom. So if you move your cursor across the top of your screen and you go over, you should have a feature that says exit full screen. And once you exit full screen, then you should be able to go to your browser and go into Google Classroom. Once you're in Google Classroom, I'm not 100% sure if it'll let everybody into the same one. I'm hoping that it will, but we're going to start with a Spanish 3 first period Google Classroom. And what you would want to do is, if you remember, when you go to Google Classroom, we kind of looked at this last week. When you go to the main page, there's this plus up in the top corner. You're ultimately going to want to hit that, and you want to join class. And when you go to the join class, you're going to be asked to enter a code. So I'm going to have you enter the first period class code, which is this code, RRAD7GQ, and the letters are all lowercase. So if you enter those in, it will allow you to enter the classroom as if you were a student. And that's exactly how you would get your students to join your classroom. If you were in the classroom, you would be projecting this code up on the board and they would be joining. But because we're remote, if you haven't set up your Google Classroom yet, you can share this number or this code with them through email, and they can go into the Google Classroom, hit the plus, and join your class. Okay, so I'm gonna give you guys a couple minutes. Okay, so I see that the code is not working. Okay. Is there anybody who was able to get it to work? Okay. So there are some people who are in. Got lots of students here so far. Okay, so if the code is not working for you, a couple of things it could be. Number one, the class could be full. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull up the second period class, and I'm gonna project the next code to try. And then sometimes if you are trying to log in with a school, monitored Gmail, it won't let you join a class. You might have to switch and use a personal Gmail address in order to try join the class. So let's go ahead and see if we can get some people into this second period class. And the code is lowercase letter SR7 ZPJ2. So hopefully this is working for those of you that weren't able to get into the other room. Okay. See if we can get everybody in there. Okay. All right. Let's do this. Let me go back to my, I'm gonna order these around here. Class I have, let's see, there's only 7 students in this one, so let's see if we can get some more people in this one. Again, if you're trying to join with a school email address, they might not work. It might be blocked, so you may have to switch over to a personal Gmail if you have a personal Gmail account. Again, this is the second period class, lowercase s, lowercase r, 7, ZPJ2. Okay, looks like we've got some more students in there. Gonna go back, so we have 9 and 20 in this one. Okay. We should still be able to get a couple more students in this one. So again, you know, some emails, if it's a school monitored email, it might be blocked. And again, you might want to switch to your personal one if you have a personal Gmail. Again, it's SR7ZPJ2. See if we can get a couple more people in here. And if you are in the classroom, you can go ahead and click over to Classwork and you'll see the topic headings that I have in there. All right, let's go back and see. Okay, we have a couple more people in that one. Let's try, if you weren't able to get into that one, this one still should have some more room. We could try this code, RRAD7GQ, and those are all lowercase letters. Okay. Let me just create one more here. If you remember this from last week, we have this feature where you can copy. I am going to call this one Spanish 3, but I'm going to call this my third period. Good old room 110, haven't seen that for a while. Okay, and it'll make a third class so we can try to get some more participants in that one. Just got to give it a minute. And then I'm going to pull this one up. Oh, nope, not the right one, sorry. I need to go back and open up third period now. Okay, so this is another room. This is third period now. It is 6T7NS27. So if you weren't able to get into the other two, this is a third class, and it'll be you'll get the same assignments as everybody else. Again, 6T7NS27. Just for my own sake, I'm going to go ahead and change the color of the theme. I am a color code person. I like to be able to have different colors, so I'm going to make this one purple. Okay. So when I go back now, I have my classes in a row. I'm going to put them in numerical order. All right. So again, take a minute and go over to the classwork section. You're going to see that there are 3 topics. You'll see that I have a daily warm-up tab, that I have a tab for Los Deportes, and then I have one for El Imperfecto. If you remember from last week, I am working on some activities with my students with the El Imperfecto. It's kind of fits for them being at home because I have them doing some things related to their childhood. And asking them to find some of their favorite toys, and we've been using those for speaking practice and talking to their parents and family at home about what they were like as a kid. So I figured if they're at home, they have access to some of those things, it was a good topic to be working on. So again, hopefully you've been able to join in one of these classrooms and you've had a chance to click over to the classwork tab and see the different topics. Okay, so do we have some people in this one? Perfect. Okay, so I will share those with again, but I do want to go ahead and get started by loading an assignment. If you are ready, I'm going to go over here. We talked about this last week, was creating an assignment. So I am going to give you an assignment for your daily warm-up. And something that I like to do with my kids on Thursday is something I call Ha Ha Jueves. So those of you that are not Spanish teachers, that's Ha Ha Thursday. It's the J makes a little better, Ha Ha Jueves. And I like to share something funny with my students, whether it's a joke or a meme. So I'm going to go ahead and assign this to you. I'm going to make it worth 5 points. and I'm going to assign it to all 3 classes, so you will all get it. I'm going to say that it's due by tomorrow, and I'm going to put it underneath my daily warm-up. I like to keep everything nice and organized, okay? Because this is going to be a quick activity, I don't need to assign a rubric to it. I use the rubric feature if I'm going to be doing something that requires them to write. So right now I don't need to upload anything in regards to a rubric. So I'm going to go here to my drive, and I'm going to pull up the assignment that I would like for you to do. And I'm going to choose for all of you to have your own copy. Okay? And I have sent you your first assignment. I'm going to let it load here on my part. Just waiting for that to load. Okay, so eventually, when it's spinning here. All right, here it go. If you go underneath the clerk section, you should see something called Jaja Jueves. And when you open it up, it will be on the right-hand side of your screen. In a little box underneath that box, it'll say private comments. That's an area where I can type questions or comments back to you. You can also type comments to me. Okay, so, and then when you open it up, you will open it up and it'll look like a slide presentation. Let me open it here for you. It'll just be one slide presentation. Just waiting for mine to load here. Okay, and the meme says, esta fue la primera TV a color de mis padres, which means this was my parents' color TV. Lo recuerdo perfectamente porque yo era el control remoto. I remember it perfectly because I was the remote control. So I remember talking to my kids about how when we first got cable in my house when I was a kid, it came with the box with the knob. And whenever my parents wanted the channel to be changed, I was the one that had to get up to go to the box and turn the knob because we didn't have a remote control for the cable box. It was just a big, huge box that sat on top of the TV with these dials. So they think that that's hysterical. But anyways, because I've been working with them in the past tense, I've had them looking at some examples of things from the past, and this had a good example of the yo era. So what you're assigned to do is to look at the first one, and if you notice on your slide, you have a text box and it says answer. So in here you would text your answer, you would type your answer. What did you learn about the TV in this meme? That this was well, this is what color TV looked like in the past. Then, you know, there were knobs, you know, whatever it is that you're learning about the TV. And then the second one is what does this person remember about the TV? This person remembers it because they were the one that had to be the remote control. So I'm going to have you answer those 2 questions. And then when you're done, on the right-hand side, it'll give you the opportunity to submit the slide back to me. Okay, so you're in your classwork section, you're working on that assignment. You can type anything that you want to type. And then you are looking at it as if that's what it looks like from your student's point of view. Is that they, you know, the slide will pop up or the doc will pop up on that right-hand side. Now I'm working in the first period class, so now I can see on my end that a few of you have turned it in so far. And last week we talked a little bit about how some of you were saying that your students were seeing that the work was not turned in. It's really important that you hit that submit button, because once you hit the submit button, then it comes back into you as the teacher as being turned in, and that gives you the opportunity to then assign a point value to it and return it back to the student. If the student doesn't turn it in, it'll show up in the grade book and it will say not turned in or not submitted. Even though you can still give it a grade, it'll still show that the student didn't turn it in, which could be confusing to them. They could think, oh, it says I didn't turn it in, so I must not be getting credit. So it is really important that they hit that feature. So now that you've had an opportunity to kind of see it from the student point of view, you know, you can reiterate to them the importance of making sure that they go ahead and hit that submit button so that it comes back to you and that it shows up as being turned in. Now, if a student does not do the assignment, it'll show up in red and it'll say missing. And then you can go back and you can send them a little message and say, hey, I noticed that you didn't do the 5-point Jueves daily warm up from the other day. You know, just want to remind you that that needs to be done so that they can go back then and they can finish that assignment. I'm noticing that quite a few of you are starting to finish up those assignments. Okay. So again, you're working on that daily warm-up. See, first period's working pretty well. I'm going to look over here and see how second periods do. Okay, looks good. Those are coming in. Check out third period. If you noticed when you were clicking on the slide, the only thing that you could manipulate was the text box. That's because I created the slide with the background and the meme on it, and then I saved that slide as a PNG, and then without the actual text box, and then I went in and I pulled it back into the Google Slides as a background image. And then I went ahead and put the text boxes on top of it because I didn't want the students to be able to move around or delete the meme. I wanted it to stay there. So that is one of the techniques that you can use to turn a PDF into a editable. I have to make sure I pronounce all my letters on that one so it's not edible. Editable document as well. So if you were clicking around on it and you noticed that nothing else was moving except for that text box, that's because everything had been kind of locked into position by making it a PNG image. Okay, so looks like almost everybody is finishing up with that. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to first period. And then, you know, if you switch back to the Zoom and you can see my screen, I'm going to show you as the teacher now what your view of the assignment is going to look like. So if you, whoops, I clicked too fast. Okay. So when you go to the assignment now, you're going to be able to see who turned it in. And then what you can do now is you can start going through and you can start grading these. And so if you have a class set, once you hit the first one, okay, I can see that, oh boy, oh, come on, screen catch up. I'm waiting for my screen to catch up here for a second. I can see that she answered. Okay, that the she learned that this TV is old, okay, and that the person who was making the meme remembers being the remote control for the television. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say, you know, you did a great job. I can give her the 5 out of 5 up here. And then, you know, where it says private comment, I can make her a comment and I say like buen trabajo. I can let the kids know, oops, sorry, my fingers. And I can post that at the bottom and they'll see that comment. And then I come up here to this button that says return. And now Leslie will get her work back. She'll get an email that lets her know that I returned it to her. And then I can move on to the next one. And so I go to Sarah now. I'm sorry, my screen's taking a long time to load for some reason. And Sarah's letting me know, oh, this TV did not have a remote, and it was the person who had to get up and change the channel. So I'm going to tell Sarah, you know what, Sarah, you did a great job here. And again, I can choose to leave her a comment if I want to. And then I can return her work. So I can go through and I can read each student's answers and give them a grade based on the answer that they've given. And then I can easily switch through all of the students who are in the class. They'll be alphabetical up here by last name. So Ken would be next. Okay. Oh, Ken lost his text box, and that's fine. I mean, you can add your own text box in if you needed to, and the students can do the same thing. They can add their own text box if they needed to, or, you know, hey, great, he thought outside of the box and put two answers up in one. That's totally fine with me too. We're all new at this. I understand, you know, hey, you got an answer for that one, great. So I'm going to give Ken a grade on that and return it back to him. Okay, so that's how it would look from your end for grading these. And as I grade them, they pop up over here on the side underneath graded. So it lets me know that those are all graded. These have all been turned in. And then I have 11 students here who have been assigned the assignment but did not turn it in yet. Okay, so that allows you to grade. And then once you have been able to grade a couple of assignments that way, if you go back across the top of your screen, you'll have stream. That's where all of your announcements will pop up. You'll have your classwork tab. That's where you'll post all of your assignments, your assessments, your materials. People just lets you know who's in the class. And the nice thing about this is if you needed to email one of them quickly, you can just go ahead and click to the three little dots that are to the right of the person's name, and you can send that person an email without having to you know, switch or look up their email address. And then when I go over here to grades, it'll have the assignment and it'll tell me everybody's grade in one easy location. So I can go back here then and look at those grades, and I can easily then transfer them over to my gradebook. Now, some gradebook programs are compatible with Google Classroom, and you can import all of the grades that you've given in Google Classroom right into your gradebook. Not all of the gradebook programs are compatible, so I use PowerSchool, for example. PowerSchool does have a way where you can export the grades, and you have to do that comma separated value, and you export the grades, and then you have to take them and then re-import them. For me, it's just easier to go ahead and open up this gradebook and then open up PowerSchool, and I just boom, 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 quickly type them in. But there are several programs that are compatible with Google Classroom where you can import your grades right into the gradebook out of Google Classroom. Because mine's not easily compatible, you know, I'm not sure. I think there was one ARI or ARI that was compatible that I had learned about last week. So, you know, it's whatever program you have for your grades, you would want to find out if it is directly compatible with Google Classroom or not. For me, it's just easier to go ahead and just switch the grades from Google Classroom into PowerSchool by pulling them both up. Okay, so that kind of gives you a view of what the classwork end looks like for the students, and then how it is as a student to submit the assignment. It also shows you how to grade those. I'm going to close a couple of my tabs here. I did the same thing last week. I feel like it's like my brain. I've got all these different browser tabs open at the same time. Okay. So again, you know, you have the ability to put a private comment. You can give them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 based on, you know, how well they did. The arrows across the top allow you to switch in between students. Now, you know, if you're reading a student and, for example, you wanted the answers to be written in Spanish, but your student wrote their answers in English, or vice versa. If you're doing something that's interpretive reading and you gave them a Spanish reading, but you wanted them to answer questions in English to show that they were able to read and interpret the information, you know, you wanted them to answer in English, but they wrote them in Spanish, you could put a little comment on here and say, oh, you know, you forgot to answer in Spanish, you forgot to answer in English, or you answered number 1, but you forgot to answer number 2. So Nancy did answer both of these, and she did exactly what I was looking for her to do, but I'm going to pretend that she forgot to answer number 2. So I can make her a little message here and say, forgot to answer number 2. And I could post that on hers, and then instead of giving her a grade, I'm going to go ahead and return it back to her. And she's going to get a little message that says, you've received this back with no grade, but my private message to her that says you forgot to answer number 2 is going to come up, and then she can go ahead and redo the assignment, submit it back to me again, and then I can go back and give her credit. So if Nancy gets that, she makes the change to it, I get it back, then I can go ahead and then I can say, great, thanks for turning it back in, and now I can give her her 5 out of 5. So you don't have to give them a grade. You know, before you return it, if they need to fix something on it, you can go ahead and return it to them, and they'll get notification that they need to go back and fix something and turn it back into you. And then each time that they make a comment, if you have it set up, your email, you'll get a little email message that says, Nancy made a comment, a private comment on the assignment, ha ha jueves. So it lets me know that she went ahead and saw my message, returned my message, and then it will also let me know that she has resubmitted the assignment. So it's nice because you'll get notification that she has resubmitted that assignment. Okay, so let's look at another example of an assignment. I want to show you one here that I made that is based off of that reading called El Fútbol en Argentina. And if you look at this presentation, it is a Google slide presentation, and I made it so that it would be editable, meaning that the students could actually write on the document itself. So what I did is I actually changed the size and the shape of the Google Slides, and then that allowed me to use the 8.5 by 11, but switch it around the other way. So if you look, if I click on this, these are not text boxes. Like these cannot be moved around. So that way, when the students get this presentation, they can't delete anything or move anything off of it. The only thing that I went back in and I added on top of this, this image is the link to a Quizlet. So this is a digital download that you can purchase from Teachers Discovery. It is one of the stories that's inside of that digital reader. And what I did is I went ahead and I took the first page, that's a vocab page, and I took this vocab and I started putting it into a Quizlet. And then that way the students could get some vocab practice on the Quizlet before they read the article. The nice thing about Quizlet is that it is now free. You can get the upgraded or the pro version of it right now for free. And you can create classes within Quizlet. You can assign Quizlet into Google Classroom. It is compatible. And then you can keep track of who went and practiced the vocab before they do the reading assignment. So page 2 is the actual reading itself. And then I took this activity that was the Wordle activity, and I would turn this into a speaking activity on Flipgrid. So I would assign them to do a quick little video on Flipgrid with this information so that the students could look at this, they can look at the words, they can think about what they would say, put their ideas together, and then, you know, it says they can give a brief synopsis of what you read with, and then, or the other option they have is describing the current state of football using these words only. So I would have them do that in Flipgrid. And then the other activity here is, this is the cultural comparison activity that was in there. Now, what I did here is I went ahead and I imported the cultural comparison I took this as a screenshot off of the PDF. So when I opened up the PDF, I used that snapshot tool, and I took a snapshot of just this section, and I was able to then paste it onto this. That allowed me then to make 2 circles using the shapes up here. I made 2 circles because I figured it's a cultural comparison. This is a way where they could go ahead and compare and contrast soccer in Argentina to soccer in the US. But I want to make this slide a slide so that they cannot move the circles around. Okay, so I want to make this, I want to lock this slide, so to speak. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So once you've gone to your digital download and you have taken some screenshots out of the digital download of the parts that you want to use in order to make them editable, because technically the students wouldn't be able to write on the PDF because they're you know, if you load the PDF, they would have to print it, write on it, and send it back to you to a picture, which is an option. I've done that with my kids already too, is I've sent them something, I've asked them to print it, and then handwrite on it, and then take an actual photograph of it and upload the photo into the assignment. So that is one option that you have. But if you want them to be able to type on this, a quick and easy way to do that is to take your slide and you're going to highlight it. You're going to go to File. You're going to hit Download, and you are going to download it as a PNG image. So when you download it as a PNG image, do that in your downloads, and I'm going to call it Football in Argentina PNG. So now working on downloading, okay? So now what I want to do is I want to go back over here, and in between my next 2 slides, I want to go ahead and I want to insert a new slide. Okay, so I'm going to insert a new slide. I used Control-M to do so, or you can go up here to the Insert feature. And I'm going to open up that new slide here. I'm going to get rid of these 2 boxes. And I'm going to go to background. So in the background, you have the option to choose an image. I'm going to go find that image that I just made. It should be in my downloads. And again, it should be Football in Argentina. There it is. And I'm going to open it up as my background. And now, if you look, they can't move the circles, and they cannot move this cultural comparison box. Now on the previous slide, where I cut and pasted everything together, if I were to assign this to students, this slide would be able to move all of this around. Okay, but now because I saved it as an image and brought it back in as the background, they can't move all of that around. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this one out. And I'm going to take this one and I'm going to add the text box. So you could give them a text box here and say, okay, you're going to type about Argentina there. And then you can allow them to type about what Argentina and the US has in common here in the middle. Oops, I meant to make a copy of that. There we go. Okay, so now make one more. Okay, and then over here they're going to write about United States. So when I assign this to them, they can put their answers in each of these boxes that I've given them. They can't move around any of the other features. So I've now made this an editable PDF that they can type in, and I can then see their typing, okay, without having to have them print anything at home. The last slide I did is kind of another version of the same thing. I took the questions page and went ahead and cut and pasted it into a slide. I saved that slide as a PNG. I went back and uploaded it as my background. So then they can't move any of this stuff around and they can't move the questions, but then I put in text boxes and I chose to outline them so that they could see them. So I went here to border weight and I just picked the size 1. And then that way they can go ahead and type their answers in here. And then I can go back and see them. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take this document and I'm going to assign it to you underneath Los Deportes. Okay, so the first thing I need to do is I need to make sure that I give it a title. Okay, and here's my Chrome extension up here that allows me to quickly make my accent marks. Okay, and you can type up your instructions, read each slide carefully, and you can give them any details that you want in here. I'm going to make sure that I assign this to all 3 of my Spanish classes, and I'm going to make this assignment 100 points. And I want them to do it by tomorrow evening. I'm going to put it underneath Los Deportes. I'm going to go back over here and I'm going to go to my Google Drive. And I'm going to make sure that I upload the correct one. And I want every student to get their own copy. Okay, so you have a couple of options here. If you would like for them, because they're going to be doing that cultural comparison part, if you wanted to make sure that they knew that there was a rubric related to that cultural comparison, there is this feature over here called Rubric, and you can create a rubric for them to let them know that you are going to be grading for certain things. So, for example, if you wanted to make sure that they knew that part of their grade was going to be based on their ability to, you know, compare products, practices, and perspectives. So they're making that cultural connection. You know, you would let them know that one of their criterion is cultural connection. And then you could let them know that, you know, you can, if you associate a percentage to a number, so we use a 4, 3, 2, 1, 0 scale. And for us, generally speaking, a 4 is a 95% to 100%. So they could technically get anywhere from, 100 to 95 here. So for 100, and this means that they exceed the level, for example. And then for the description, you would have something like student makes a detailed connection between products, practices, and perspectives. Okay. And then for the next level, they might get an 85, okay? Means that they meets the level. And then you could come up with the description for that. And then the next one could be something like 75. They are, they're progressing. And then you might have a 65, which means the skills are developing, but they're not quite there. And, you've got a 55, whereas, student, more development is needed. And again, you can give the descriptions here. You can add more criterion that you would want to score. Okay, so if you wanted to have grammar, you wanted to have use of vocabulary, you could add all of that in here as well. You can add more criteria. You can add more information here as a description. Your numbers across here should be equal to the point value that you are assigning the project, and then you can save that rubric, and the students will get a copy of that rubric when they get the assignment. Okay, so that's one of the options that you have if you want to provide them with a rubric. So I'm going to go ahead and assign that to everybody. If you go over to your stream, it'll pop up as an announcement. It'll say, that your teacher has made this assignment for you. It'll send you to the classwork, and then within the classwork, you'll be able to open up this slide presentation then, and you'll be able to do your work on that slide presentation and submit it back to me as your teacher, and then I would go. Okay, I have completely forgotten about the questions and answers. I got so into this. Let me go and grab some of these questions here quickly. Yes, everybody was muted. Okay. Do my kids answer the daily warm-ups in Spanish or English? That's a great question. Sometimes I do my daily warm-ups in Spanish. So every Monday we do a charla lunes, and they have to answer any of the questions that I give them in Spanish, whether it's a quick Zoom, we do it in Spanish, or if I ask them to jot something down, I might give them a slide and they have to write a quick little paragraph. They do those in Spanish. We do música miércoles. So for música miércoles, a lot of times I will give them song lyrics and they have to match them up to the English translation. Last week I did the concert that Alvaro Soler did from home. So he and his girlfriend, Sophia, actually did a concert from home, and I had given them the opportunity to listen to 2 songs, and I had them compare and contrast the 2 songs that they chose to listen to. So a lot of them chose to listen to Sophia, which is a great, catchy, upbeat song, and then they liked El Mismo Sol. So they had to compare and contrast that in Spanish. A lot of times the Jaja Jueves, I have them do it as an interpretive reading, and they have them tell me, Senora thinks this is so funny. Why does Senora think it's so funny? Because a lot of times they don't think my jokes are funny. And then they have to write back, oh, well, it's funny because, this is a TV and it's an old TV, and Senora thinks it's funny that, kids in the olden days had to get up and change the channel. Nowadays we have remote control. So it depends on what the activity is as to which language I use, but generally speaking, I do those mostly in Spanish. tomorrow is Baile Viernes, and so I'm giving them the opportunity to learn a dance over the weekend, and they record themselves doing the dance. I do make the Baile Viernes optional. They don't have to do it, but then I let them pick one daily warm-up the following week that they get to skip if they do the Baile Viernes. I throw in the added bonus of, you know, hey, if you can get your family involved, even better. And I would say about 40% or so of my kids, between 40 and 50% of the kids, they will participate in the dance. Especially if they like the song and they like the singer, they'll participate. And families are really pretty open to getting involved right now in their videos. Okay, so all of you should probably have that El Fútbol en Argentina assignment underneath your Deportes so that you can see that as well. I want to show you one more feature when you're grading something. So if I'm getting ready to go and I'm going to start looking at these Fútbol en Argentina assignments. I'm going to go ahead here and scroll down to view assignment. I'm going to show you a feature that might make it a little bit, Rosario, thank you for turning your assignment in. I'm going to pull this up here. Okay. Over here on the side, you have something called, oops, sorry, I don't normally, okay. Oh boy, my screen is freezing here. Sorry about that. Okay, it gives you something called a comment bank. So if you're grading something, you're going to be grading writing, for example, and you want to have some comments over here on the side that you think that you're going to be using throughout all of the grading that you're going to do, you can store them in a comment bank. So if I wanted to have something on here about, you know, that the student, whether you're going to pull out some of the good things that they did or the bad things that they did, great use of new vocabulary. Okay, so I'm going to say that that's probably a comment that I would use often enough that I want to make sure I save that in my bank. So anytime you want to add to your bank, you can add as many as you want as a time. So, you know, good use of the present tense. And maybe you're going to say, you know, that you want to make sure that they have you know, the good use of the perfect tense, if that's something that you're going to be using. And good example from the reading. Okay, so whatever it is that you think you might want to have as, ooh. Okay, so these are going to become, oh boy, now they added twice. All right, so I can get rid of these duplicates here. Okay, so when I go over to the assignment and I'm getting ready to grade the first section, okay, so if I'm going over here and the person had written something, you know, and I wanted to say, oh, you did a great job of, you know, I wanted to make a comment about how they did a great job of using vocabulary. I can go over here and I can start typing in one of the words from the comment bank that I have saved, and then the comments will pop up underneath here. So I don't have to type in the whole phrase now. It'll come up based off of that word. You can also use a hashtag and get it started from there. But if you know that you wanted, you know, the word great was together with the vocabulary, it allows you to insert then those comments over here based on what they typed without having to retype the comments over and over again. So it allows you to pull from this bank of phrases that you're going to keep stored because they're phrases that you use often. Now, if you wanted to add a private comment on here, obviously you can. And then back here, it allows you to give them a grade based on that rubric. So if Rosario did a really nice job, made sure everything connected, had a lot of detail, used good connecting words, transition words, you know, and you're going to go ahead and give a 95. That allows them to see that on the rubric. They can pull that back up. And then I can make sure that she gets this back and can see the grade based on the rubric here. You know, right here in this category or this category as well. So you know, you can easily move between your the rubric that you've already created, you know, and then they can see that as well. Oops. Where is it? There it goes. So return. So she's going to get that back. And then I can move to the next one. So it shows you that you have, again, when I move to the next one here, I have those comments that I can pull from. If I want to add those comments along the side, I can do that. And then I can go back to here, which is the lines. My computer is a little bit slow here today, I apologize. I can go back and say, you know, Gabriela did a really nice job, but Gabriela, I want you to, you know, add more transition. Between your thoughts and ideas, or, you know, use more connection, and then that way she can see that comment. She can also see some of the general comments that I would be able to attach to it. And then here, she can see that she falls into that category on the rubric. So that kind of gives you an idea of how you can add comments from a comment bank. You can add private comments. That gives her a chance to write back to you in the private comments. She can go back and reference the rubric so that she can see, oh yeah, here's the rubric. This is where I fell on the rubric for this particular category. So again, she can go back and double check that as well, and she would have gotten a copy of that rubric with the assignment itself. Okay, so if we go back here again, I go back to the grades. Now I can see both of those grades in here. I can see that this was the first assignment I gave, this is the second assignment I gave, and then you can go over here and once you start grading, sorry, I'm pointing at the screen as if you're going to see my hand, but once you start adding grades in here, they'll show up over here so that you can see who has finished, who hasn't, and so forth. Okay. Let's see, so grade, comment bank, return. I think I got everything on my list. Let me run back up here and check the questions and answers. Okay. Let's scroll down here. Yes, so everybody was looking for, yes, the personal accounts. I'm sorry, I noticed a lot of people were having trouble with their school accounts having to do. Okay, so a couple things about embedding the Quizlet link. Going back and let's see. Meme, okay, about the meme. Okay, a couple questions about Quizlet. Connecting a Google form. Yeah, I can show you how to do that as well. Okay, so the question came from how did I insert the link back to Quizlet, which is on the first slide here. So what I did is I created the Quizlet in the on the Quizlet website, and then once you go to Quizlet, it will give you an option to share. So I went into Quizlet and I shortened the link, and then I copied the link and I brought it back over here to this document. And I went to, let's see, I just went quickly here. I created a box, and in the box, I wanted to connect the link. So the text that will show up will say as click, and then right here where it says link, I put the shortened link into here, and then I hit the apply button. And once I did all of that, this link itself popped up. So if you are in the presentation mode, or if you're one of the kids, once you click on it, it'll take you directly to that Quizlet where I started putting the vocabulary from the reading into the Quizlet. I did it just as an example to show you. So not all of the vocab is in here, but that allowed them then to go directly to the Quizlet. So once I was in the Quizlet, I used the share feature. I did the quick copy of the link and just took that over. But you could share the Quizlet directly on Google Classroom as well. So if I wanted to, I could go to this where it says share to Classroom. I would choose, I'll say, okay, I'm going to start with my first period class. I'm going to create it as an assignment. And once I hit this button that says go, I can say Quizlet vocab review. And oh, I want to make this bigger, but it just blocked. I want to make sure that all 3 of my classes get that assignment. I'm going to make it ungraded. I just want them to do the practice. And then I can hit assign. And now you'll be able to see that in your classroom. So if I go back here to Classwork, first period, oh, it shows up here. Actually, I should probably go in and go ahead and edit this. I didn't edit it, I didn't load it underneath the topic. So I would just go ahead and put it underneath Los Deportes. So then that way it shows up with that actual football presentation, soccer presentation, so that it's here as well, so that I could have the opportunity to link that directly to the Google Classroom. It is compatible. All right. I'm going to go ahead and close this one out. Another way to share a PDF, if you have a download that you purchased from Teacher's Discovery or from another source, is that you can take the, I talked a little bit about this last week, where you can take part of the download and save it as a PDF, or save it, you know, if you use that feature when you open it up, the print feature is like save as a PDF, and then you can put them in Google Classroom. You can upload the PDF into Google Classroom. So now I could choose to take this Plato del Buen Comer. This is one of the resources that I used in one of the thematic units that I created on food. And there is an activity that goes along with it. The activity looks like this, where they would have the link to that actual PDF. or I'm sorry, to that actual resource from where on Twitter. And then normally you would give them a paper copy of this and they would fill it out by hand. But obviously that's not something that they can do very easily if they don't have a printer. So one of the things you could do is you could share these with them as a material. You could turn them into an assignment, and then you could either have them print it out and do it by hand, take a photo of it, and attach that photo back into the, upload that photo back into the assignment, which is one option. Another option that you could do is you could provide them the PDF of the Plato del Buen Comer and then create a Google Doc that would coordinate with the actual PDF. So for example, this is a Google Doc that I created that would go with the Plato del Buen Comer. It is the keyword recognition. I use the same letters A through J is that were on the actual PDF itself. So if you look, you can see that this PDF had keyword recognition, A through J, and then the main idea section was that they used the information on the infographic to tell the main idea. So I can have them put their answers here then on this doc, and I would attach this doc obviously as part of the assignment, and I could go back and I could check their answers this way. And then they're not printing anything, they're not having to write anything out by hand. Another option that you have, oh, I think I accidentally got out of my drive here, let me get back there, is that you could turn something into a Google form so that they would type their answers into the Google form and submit that to you. And you could choose to do that as self-grading if you wanted to. So here's one that I made that coordinates with the same activity. Just taking it. And I said, okay, keyword recognition, I made it short answer, and they would get that PDF of the Plato, and they would type their answers in here. So depending on how you assign it, if you choose to make it a quiz, then you can put the answers in here and it would self-grade. So you have a couple options of how you would want them to get this. You have them do this just as an assignment, and you would give them their feedback, as well. So you could assign something as a Google form, or you have the option, like I showed you with the soccer presentation that I had made, that you could turn that into a PDF and put the text boxes on it. So then that way they could go ahead and type within the text box. So here's another one. This came from that the writing prompt digital download for it was a level 2 writing prompt digital download. And I did the same thing. When I had it open as a PDF, I used that snapshot feature. I took a snapshot of it, and when I did, I went ahead and brought the snapshot over here, and I cut and pasted it into onto the Google slide. And then I did the same thing before, as where I saved it, that slide as a PNG, and then brought it in as the background. So then that way they can't actually move any of this around. But what I can do is, I'm gonna have to zoom in on this because I can't see it very well. But I now have this PDF that was from the packet, and if I want them to do the writing, I can come over here and I can take a text box and I can put the text box over the part where I would want them to write their answers. And this is telling them to write 5 sentences of 5 or more words, and each sentence should include one of the words that's in this list. And then it says, that using your subject, telling them kind of, giving some guidance as to what they need to do. So I could type on here, yo escribía, because I would want to say, you know, I used to write, and then I could answer the kids could answer their questions here. I shouldn't say I, but the kids would get this as an assignment, and they would be able to type right on there without having to print anything, write out anything out by hand. So that's another option that you have for taking something that was a digital download and turning it into a document that is editable. All right. So I think that's everything that I had on my list. Let me go back to that Google form. If you do assign a Google form as a quiz, the nice thing about it is that you can import the grades right back into your Google Drive. So let me click out of some of the things here. So if you want to assign a Google form, okay, so if I'm going to go to create, and I'm going to assign a quiz, and my quiz is going to be that plato del buen comer activity. Just to find it on here. Here it is. Let's see. Okay, so I'm going to assign them this. So I don't need this one. And I'm going to call it, okay. So in order for that to happen, you have to have this Google Suite. And my personal account that I'm working on for this, it does not have Google Suite. So that's not going to let me automatically import. On my actual school email and my school classroom drive, it would allow me to do that. I'm not using my school one only because I don't want to expose my students' names. And so I'm actually doing all of this from my personal account. If you have the Google Suite, when you get this far, right underneath here where it says El Plato del Buen Comer, it would give you the opportunity to turn on there's like a little toggle here. You could click on that and it allows you to import the grades. But I'm almost positive that that is a feature that is related to Google Suite, and I'm not working in that right now. But you do have the ability to, if you assign a quiz from Google Drive, to switch on that toggle and it'll import your grades. I actually did it today and it did the import feature. And I was able to import all the grades on an activity that I did with my kids. Let me see if I can. Make this a quiz. Yeah, so if you make something a quiz, you obviously have to go back and assign a point value to each of the questions. So, you know, that's something you could probably do to help with the grading aspect of it, is to make it a quiz here. And then obviously you would get your responses by going over to here and opening up the Google spreadsheet so that you could see the answers. But there is a feature in Google Suite to where you can automatically upload the form grades into the assignment in Google Classroom. You can also import grades from Edpuzzle. If you use the quizzes website, your grades from there will automatically import in as well. So there are a lot of ways to bring the grades from your outside sites and resources right into the Google Classroom. All right. So Denise was asking if students are able to see or retrieve their work if you don't return it to them. They can unsubmit something, fix it, and turn it back in the same way that that they submitted it. So you know, they can work on it for as long as they want to. Once they submit it, they can go back, say that they realize, oh my gosh, I forgot to do this. They can go back and unsubmit something and then turn it back into you. So, you know, just because they do something quickly and turn it in, it doesn't mean that's the end of it. They can never see it again until you return it to them. They could go back and grab that activity and fix something on it if they wanted to. Let's see. Okay, so for correct specific grammar, comments, or suggesting mode, you know, it depends a lot on the activity that I'm doing. Sometimes I want them to go back and make corrections. So if I have the comments from my comment bank that says, you know, please work on noun adjective agreement, I can pull that up and put it on the side, and I highlight maybe an example of where their words don't agree in gender and number, and then go back and ask them to check their work to see if they could go back and improve some of their other answers on noun adjective agreement. If I'm grading something very quickly, I use the suggestion mode just so I can get through it quickly and make some corrections for them. I've noticed too that a lot of times they forget accent marks on words like también because they're still trying to figure out how to do all of that. They forget accent marks on the word dia. So there are so many basic words that they end up using that they don't put accent marks on. And I think that there's just this learning curve to doing all of this digitally. I did have them to download this Chrome extension. It's called Special Characters Click and Paste, that allows them to make some of these foreign language characters a little bit easier. There are a lot of options on here. So, you know, they have Spanish, Portuguese, French, Italian, German, Greek. So, you know, they can go back in here and get those characters. So I did have them put that on to help them be able to add their accent marks on quickly. So, you know, it depends on what you're grading for as to which would work better for you. I like to try to make personal comments on their work as well. So when I do their daily warm-up, a lot of times I'll do the personal comment. If I have them do a daily warm-up every day of the week, I will try to make a personal comment on theirs at least twice a week so that they are getting that little bit of a personal connection, and then they will send a little message back. So I do try to put something on there, make a connection to them, especially when they do their charla. If they did a written charla, I like to put something on there. If they said, oh, I read this, you know, oh, I read that too, or, oh, do you recommend it? You know, what did you think about that movie? Or, you know, I try to make some sort of personal connection with them because I'm missing that. I'm not getting to see them every day. I don't Zoom with them every day. And when I do a Zoom session, I don't necessarily get to talk to every single individual student. So I am missing that connection with them. I try to make that connection through those comments as well. Let's see. All right. Yes, so sometimes you can do Sally was talking about how Google Docs will reformat a PDF. And actually, Chuck, who was hosting this meeting with me from Teachers Discovery, we were just talking about this earlier, that you can open up a PDF, you know, and if you, here's an example. I took the thematic unit page 13, it's actually page 22 of the packet, and I opened the PDF up as a Google Doc. And unfortunately, the formatting does not always translate, or you know, doesn't always come out exactly right. So this is what happened when I opened the PDF as a doc. It came out kind of mixed up like this, and I feel like I would have to do a lot of work to this to get it the way I want it to look. I'm the type of person to to where I want my doc to look as nice as it can, and the lines aren't there. So I would have to do a lot of editing to this in order to get it to look the way that I would want it to. So for me, it's just easier to go back to that original page, because this is what it looked like originally before I opened it up with that. So it's a lot easier for me to take this and just quickly make a snapshot of it when I open it as a PDF, and to put that snapshot into a Google slide, and then just add a text box over the area where I would like for them to type, because it keeps the formatting. And that's just something, you know, that's probably more of a personal thing than anything else. If you wanted to take this and you know, obviously you can change the font and work with the spacing and whatnot and turn it into a usable document, that's great. That's an option that you have as well. So yes, thank you for reminding me of that option, that is still there. Okay, so again, talking about that, let's see. How did I change? Okay, so that's Google Doc reformat. And then that was, you know, Sally had asked how the students type on the doc. Once I make it into the presentation, I just go ahead and add that text box over top of it, and they can go ahead and type into the text box, because you're giving every student their own copy of it. They'll be able to individually type within that box, and then once they type their answer in there and they submit that presentation back to you, you'll be able to then go and read their answer. So let's see, I can go back to, I think this one might be. I'm sorry, my computer's a little bit slow here. But if you remember, I went back and I added these text box in. These are actually just text boxes. So the students can then just type within the text box and their answer will come up. So if you can see, I'm typing in the word cierto, falso, because this is a true false thing. There it goes, finally catching up. And so they'll be able to type inside of this box as well. And again, this is just I imported the image as a background, and then I added the text boxes on top of it so that they could type into those, but that they can't change any of this stuff. So, you know, I can lock everything except for these text boxes for them. So that is something you can do. Now, here's this one here. For those of you that were wondering, again, how to do this, in order to change the size of the slides themselves, I made them, you know, 8.5 by 11, but I switched the direction of it. So if you go down here to page setup, when you go to page setup, you're going to get standard, widescreen, and custom. I went to custom and I changed the size of it to 8.5 by 11 so that it would match the size of the original PDF. So then that way I was able to apply it. So then this is one where, if you look at this one, I went ahead and I took this Rincón del Autor, and this is a snapshot of the PDF itself that I took. Now, if I were to give this to the students, they could move this all around. They could also accidentally delete it, and I don't want that to happen. So my goal is to make this slide a locked slide. So if you look, this is asking them to do a Wordle. And I love Wordles. I use them a lot in classroom. It's just a website, wordle.com, I believe, or net. And then I also use another site called Word It Out. Basically does the same thing. And so it's asking them to use these words only to give a brief summary of what they read, or they can use these words only to talk about the current state of soccer. So maybe I want to give them an area where they could actually just brainstorm what it is that they're planning to say. So I want to ask them a question, and I'm going to put in here, you know, I want to say, what will you say? Plan your response below. Okay, so I want them to see that, but I don't want them to be able to switch it or change it or manipulate it in any way. And then I want them to plan down here in this space below. So I'm going to go ahead and, you know, put like a little box here. So they're going to plan out what they're going to say. I'm going to give it a outline. Okay, so now I want to make this a slide where they can't move anything. So I'm going to highlight the slide itself now that I've got everything on there looking the way that I want it to look. I'm going to go to File, and I'm going to download it as a PNG. And I'm going to choose to put it here in my downloads, and I'm going to have it called, I'm going to call it Wordle. Okay. So now, if you remember, I'm going to go back here, and I'm going to add in another slide. And on that slide, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the auto formatting or the auto layout there. And I'm going to go to my background. I'm going to choose an image. And I had saved that one as Wordle. I'm going to go pull that up. And it will now become my background just for that slide. So if you remember the previous slide, it had all of these like cut and pasted parts to it. And if I were to give that to students, they might be able to accidentally move things around. And I don't want them to be able to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that one out of the presentation. And now they're only going to get this one, and they can't move any of this around. So now I want to make sure that they could type and go back here and just throw in a text box. And they will be able to type in the text box when they get their copy of it. And you could go in there and give them some suggestions from your comment box before they go and do their speaking. So, you know, these are the things that they're going to plan to mention in their answer. These are obviously the words, oops, that they're trying to use. And then you could always go in here and make some comments about them, and then, you know, say, sounds great, go ahead and you know, record your answer in Flipgrid, if you're using Flipgrid or whichever platform you're using. Okay, so hopefully that helped answer some of those questions about the PDF, the special character function. That was a Chrome extension. Checking back messages that you sent on Google Classroom. If that's the, you can do an assignment. Okay, so let me go back up here. The special characters was a Chrome extension. How can you remove their work from the drive once it's graded in Google Classroom? How can I delete more? You can delete the assignment, and then that way the assignment is out of your Google Classroom. You know, you can, let's see, once you've graded it in Google Classroom. So, you know, I leave their work in Google Classroom because I want them to be able to see it and go back and look at it. but you can delete the assignments out of Google Classroom once you're done if you want to kind of clean it up a little bit. You know, once you delete the assignment, it deletes all of the everything that they've done and they've turned in. So once you delete the assignment, it's gone. If you check back a message that you sent on Google Classroom, it comes into your email. So if you sent the message to them on Google Classroom, it's just sending from your Gmail. It's just a quicker way to send it. Let's see. Open. Let's see. Training. All right. Okay. Blocking corrections. Final. So if I understand that correction, so you can, when you're in your, let me see here. You know, if you return something to them, they can go ahead and make the corrections to it. They could turn it back into you. And then, you know, if you, let me see, where am I at here? Okay. Oops, I have so many tabs open. Let me go back here. Okay. I am working from way too many tabs. Okay, so I think this is an assignment. So, you know, if you're done with something, again, you can delete it out. You don't have to keep it in there. So if you don't want them to see these, you know, you have the option of deleting them. You don't have to leave it in there if you want to clean up your, you know, yours so that you don't end up having, you know, 15 or 20 underneath here. If you put a due date to something, once the due date is over, if a student turns it in late, it'll tell you that they've turned it in late. You know, so it'll tell you when they have turned something in. So you can always tell if they turned it in on time or not. And then that way, if you're counting something like you're only giving them 24 hours to do it, once it's, you know, once they're done with it, and they turn it in late, it'll show up as late. So they can't say that they turned it in on time or they did it on time. Even if they did do it late, it is still there. They can still see it and they can still do it, but it would show up as being late. So this says it's due for tomorrow. If they don't do it until Sunday, it'll tell you that they didn't do it until Sunday. But, you know, I've been a little more lenient with that because I know some of my students are babysitting their siblings during the day, and so they aren't able to do their schoolwork during the day. And I have kids that are turning things in, you know, at 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night, 1 o'clock in the morning. So I do take them late because I understand that their circumstances are different, but it'll tell me that they did turn it in late. So if they're going to lose credit because something's not turned in on time, I mean, it shows up as being you know, not turned in on time. I do leave the assignments there and open for them to make corrections if something's not correct. I do give them the opportunity to go back in, open it, and correct it, you know, so that they can learn from that. I do leave the activities in there as well in case they need to go back and refer to something later on. I like to leave the activities in there. If they try to go back and change something, you will see that they've made changes to it, and they're, you know, you can see the revision history and whatnot on a Google, for example, to see if they've gone in and tried to fix something or correct it. If they unsubmitted it and resubmitted it, it will send you notifications as well. And then when you are done with something and you don't want to be able to accept any more late, you know, assignments, you can just go ahead and, you know, delete the assignment out of there. Okay. So, yeah. So yeah, the kids, right. So if it does go past the due date, They can technically do it, but it tells you. It lets you know that when they turn it in, it lets you know if they have changed anything. So you will know if they did not meet the due date deadline, and but they can still go in and they can try to, they can correct something during the time period that it's open. So if you give them 24 hours to do something and they submit it, they can go back and open it back up and resubmit it. If you do a Google form and you only allow them to submit one time, then they can't. If you do an outside resource, so for example, I use I use Edpuzzle. I only allow them one attempt at the Edpuzzle if it's a listening activity. And the nice thing about Edpuzzle is that when you assign it in Google Classroom, it connects to the outside site, but then the grade gets imported right back into Google Classroom. So if they get a 9 out of 10, not only do I know that they only got one attempt to do it, but that grade is automatically put right back into my Google Classroom. So I can go into Edpuzzle, I can look and see which ones they missed. I can see who did it and who didn't do it because it imports the finished grades, and then they only get one chance. I also use the quizzes website. I use that one for reading comprehension, so I will give them a PDF of something that I want them to read, and then I will put questions into the quizzes, which is automatically graded, and then the grade comes right back into Google Classroom for me as well. So it is tedious to put the questions and answers in there, but at the same time, it's worth it because they get to do it one time. Same thing with the Google form. You can have them do the Google form one time and one time only. When you do something as an assessment, it will only allow them to turn the assessment in one time, and then that's it. It's done. When you do it as an assignment, they can submit it, unsubmit it, fix it, and then resubmit it. So you have to kind of decide what you're looking for from them, and then assign it as a assessment if you don't want them to be able to submit more than one time or to work on it continuously. Better to put it as an assessment instead of an assignment. Okay. I think we're coming up, it's already past 8:30, but I'm trying to hit some of these questions here. If you have specific questions and you want to email them to me, I shared my email at the beginning of the presentation. Please feel free to email me. If you want to hang on for a little bit longer, I'll try to answer a couple of these last minute questions that have come in. I know one of them here is about Kahoot. So I will try to answer a couple of these last minute questions that are coming in. Otherwise, thank you for tuning in. I hope you were able to learn something new, that you saw the student view of it. I'll leave the Google Classrooms up for a while with a couple of assignments in there just so you can go back and refer to those and look at those. It kind of gives you a chance to see the student point of view. So if your students do have questions, you could look in the Google Classroom and say, well, let me see what it looks like from your point of view, in case you need to give them a little bit of guidance if they're not familiar with Google Classroom. But thank you for tuning in. I appreciate it. And again, if you have any more questions, please feel free to email me. I will get to those and I will answer your questions the best I can. And I appreciate you tuning in. So again, I'm going to answer a couple of these last minute questions and then I think we will be done. Let's see. Yes, we have a video from last week. It is on the Teachers Discovery Facebook. It's also on the YouTube channel. There are 8 videos on the YouTube channel for digital learning and distance learning. So if you tune into the YouTube Teachers Discovery or the Teachers Discovery Facebook group, the videos appear in there as well. And then Teachers Discovery also has a couple of Facebook lounges, and there is a World Language Lounge where there are some teachers in there having some dialogue on how to go about digital teaching, digital learning. I have a couple of posts in there as well. So if you had any questions, you could always post them in that World Language Teaching Lounge. And then people who are part of that group will answer your questions for you and share their ideas. Gloria was asking about Kahoot. You could insert a Kahoot. As far as I understand, Kahoot is available for them to do at their own pace. I haven't used it for a while, only because I have a couple students who figured out how to, I don't know, they hacked into it. And I was using it in class, and then all of a sudden I would turn my back a second and turn back around, and there would be like 200 kids that were, up on the screen or whatever. So I know they were able to hack into it. So I kind of stepped back from Kahoot, and I started to use Gimkit. And I've been doing live sessions of Gimkit on Zoom. So I give the kids the meeting ID and a password, and I tell them I'm going to be online at 1 o'clock and we're going to do Gimkit. Anybody who chooses to join us, joins in, and then I project the Gimkit screen using Zoom so that they can play on their phone, but they can see the leaderboard on my screen. So I do that. I know there are teachers who do Kahoot the same way, where they project the Kahoot on their screen and the kids play from their phone. So those are some things that you can do, if you want them to be able to still play the games. Let's see, Allison was suggesting Flubaroo, and yes, I have a colleague that uses Flubaroo. I personally don't know a whole lot about it, but that is another add-on feature that I've heard good feedback about it. That is another one. Patty, I am not an IB teacher. I teach in a public school system in Northeast Ohio. But I am not an IB teacher. We're not an IB school. We do have AP Spanish, and I teach levels 2 and 3 at my high school. We're a large public high school in Northeast Ohio. I'm east of Cleveland, and about 1,600 students. Suzanne was asking if the units can be downloaded into Google Classroom. You can buy the unit and you can upload it to your Google Drive, and you can share the unit with them in Google Classroom. The only problem with that is that they can't actually write on it. And if you buy, so for example, if you buy a thematic unit, I have a thematic unit called La Comida. If you purchase the thematic unit, the answer keys are part of the actual big document. So what I would suggest doing is taking the digital download and turning the pages, only uploading the pages from the download that you want them to see. And then that way they're not getting a copy of the answer key, for example. Or, if the unit you purchase is 200 pages and you only want them to get 10 of those pages, you're only want to upload those 10 pages. You don't want to give them a 200-page document. So the digital downloads are, they are ready to go. They're on the Teachers Discovery website. As soon as you purchase one, you get an email with a link in it. You open up that link, you download it to your drive from your computer. You can download it into your Google Drive, and then use the feature where it's that print feature. Instead of actually printing the pages, do the to PDF and save the PDF of the pages that you want to use, and then upload those pages into your classroom. I did talk about that a little bit in the 101 version of this webinar. So that would be available on the Teachers Discovery YouTube channel. And I did actually show an example of how I took one of the digital downloads that I had purchased, and I turned it into just a couple pages that I uploaded into Classroom. So that's another option that you have as well. Okay, I think I reached the end of the questions. And Again, if you have any specific questions that you have that I didn't have a chance to get to, you know, please feel free to email me. Otherwise, I think we are done. Thank you again for tuning in. I really appreciate it. And there is a workshop certificate for attending. I believe that will be emailed to you from Teachers Discovery. Again, thank you for tuning in, and you know, check out the Teachers Discovery Facebook page. Look for the World Language Lounge. You can post any questions in there if you're searching for activities. You can post in there, and people will share their ideas. They'll share the activities that they have with you. And also, you know, you could start a conversation about a topic related to digital learning and get some pretty great responses. So check it out. And again, thank you for tuning in. Enjoy your weekend. We just snow here in Northeast Ohio, so I'm hoping that our weekend won't be so snowy. So stay safe, stay healthy, and check everything out on Facebook, YouTube, and hopefully we'll get a chance to chat soon through either email or in one of those discussion lounges. Thanks for tuning in.